Hi, everyone. Like we've discussed about many things since this afternoon. The first part of it was 5G and how we are moving to its dual 5G network. And then after that, the second panel, we talked about the investments when it comes to data centers, cloud migration, and the benefits. So this session, I guess what we really want to unpack is how painful was the journey for you guys when it comes to Astro and Maxis, and was it really worth it? So with us today, we have Mei Ching. You're the first female panelist for Invest Malaysia today. Welcome. Mei Ching is a CIO from Maxis. She's been with Maxis since 2013. She's established Digital and Data AI Center of Excellence, managed cybersecurity and operations before Maxis. She was the managing director at Accenture, communications, media, and technology. Welcome. We also have Mauro, Chief Technology Officer of Astro Malaysia, been with Astro since 2021. Mauro himself has 2 decades of experience when it comes to digital transformation. And lastly, we have David from Palo Alto ASEAN Systems Engineering Head, where he provides business leaders with technical guidance to securely embrace on the digital transformation. I'm Izati from Macquarie Research. I'll be moderating the session. So I guess with this breadth of experience that we have on the stage with us, I really can't think of other more qualified panelists to discuss in terms of their cloud transformation journey. So to kickstart, I guess we can start with Mei Ching, ladies first. What's the one interesting thing that you think Maxis has to offer when it comes to cloud transformation that you think maybe the audience here are not aware of? Yeah, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Izati, and warm afternoon to everybody here, the investor community, corporate Malaysia, and our hosts of Bursa and Macquarie. So just to introduce, at Maxis, we've started the cloud transformation journey since 2016. And we started then by moving from a digital first as well as cloud migration, doing the cloud migration. So one of our biggest benefit, or rather the business benefit, was during the pandemic years, the COVID pandemic years in 2020 to 2022. Where we used the combination of technologies that we had acquired then, which was a combination of infra as a service, platform as a service, as well as software as a service. And we were able to, I recall in March 2020, when the pandemic hit us, we were able to move to work from home in 24 hours. And that also allowed us, because of our cloud-based technology, allowed us to also support our customers, businesses, and self-serve, and as well as enable businesses to have the support of our contact center even when working from home. The other interesting thing is also perhaps a little bit of sharing of Maxis. We heard just now from the panel, so we are a hybrid cloud setup, just upfront to answer the question. So we have AWS, we have for our channel-facing applications. Then we also have a Microsoft Azure for the business IoT platform. And then we also have Google for our data and AI workloads. And we have a private cloud for our network and business-sensitive workloads as well. So we are a combination of a hybrid cloud technology, and we will share a little bit about our experiences in that area later.
Thank you. What about Mario? What is it one interesting thing when it comes to Astro and the cloud journey that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think Astro is now really perceived as a tech company, right? Technology is at the heart of what we do, right? So we still perceive it as a satellite company, but in reality we do streaming. I mean, most of our boxes, they do stream. Customer can choose between dishes or streaming when they want. If it's heavy rain, we switch to streaming. So cloud is a very core what we do. Technology in general, but cloud in particular. I mean, I didn't start this journey. This journey started before I arrived in Astro. I just accelerated the process now. And most of our applications already either software as a service or running on public cloud. And the plan is to go even further and move also what is the most traditional broadcasting system into the cloud.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have David. The interesting thing when it comes to Palo Alto and your presence in ASEAN specifically.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Izzati. So Palo Alto Networks, I'll give you a little bit breakdown. 45 million lines of code, 3,000 developers, close to 70,000 products, all of which generates about 55 terabytes of data per day. So if you break that down a little bit more, that is almost watching 30,000 movies for 3 weeks, for 3 years, 24/7. That's the amount of data we generate. And for us, being a cybersecurity company, we've moved to cloud way earlier already. And with that amount of telemetry we generate, that's how we actually keep the network secure, right? And definitely we'd love to talk about all the challenges we've seen in terms of protecting that kind of network. But from an ASEAN perspective, certainly from cybersecurity, where we've seen that shift happening is that instead of moving towards, cybersecurity in the past has been defense in that you put a lot of layers to kind of frustrate the attacker. That kind of made it very difficult for enterprises. We're actually making cybersecurity much, much more simple to consume and operate. Yep.
Got it. I guess we can move on to the more interesting bit, right, for Maxis first. I think if I think about telcos, I call my parents and my friends, so you do have abundance of data when it comes to call data records, network probes data, my social circles, what kind of services I stream in terms of my internet connection. You have a lot of this information sitting in your data centers, I guess. So a quick summary of your cloud strategy. How do you prioritize what workload do you want to migrate to cloud? What do you keep on-prem? That'll be great, I guess, for the audience here today.
Okay, so in the last couple of years, as we said, we started our journey in 2016. We're very excited because we saw a lot of investments, announcements last year, and you saw some of them today on the data center as well as the public cloud. We ourselves, Maxis, is also an integrated telco, so we also provide cloud services. Our Maxis enterprise business is a AWS partner, advanced consulting partner, and we're also a Microsoft Go partner as well. So we do some of this as well ourselves. And as well as internally, one of the cloud strategy is also to build in-house expertise. I think we heard some discussions about skills just now. We have about 400 accredited cloud practitioners in our organization, both serving the businesses as well as serving internal. Now, when it comes to our cloud strategy, this is very interesting. So when we started earlier, I gave a summary just now. We start off with what's the best workload that was serviced that was fit for cloud, and that was on our channels. So our cloud strategy is actually around, we enable cloud across the 5 key digital areas for us. One is actually around our digital sales and service channels. Second one is about distribution channels, where we utilize technologies such as eKYC and as well as digital ID that helped us through the pandemic period as well as now. And then we have our digitalization of the retail centers enabled by cloud technologies with a lot of support from AWS as well. And also employee COVID apps. And also another angle of it was that we use cloud also to transform some of our CSR activities, like for example, we have this e-class, which is a digital community program that we have, and also we enable digital services to the lesser enabled community. And last but not least is also with digitalize, we use cloud to digitalize, private cloud to digitalize our network functions, and we are experimenting a lot more agile now using new network technologies on POCs on cloud as well. So all across board, and last but not least, it was quite a hot topic just now on AI. We have been enabled and also fortunate to be able to experiment with a lot of cloud technologies, utilizing real life use cases on AI and data. Of course, not abusing the cybersecurity and the privacy data, which is something that is very, very, very important for us to protect. But we have done it more for our business optimization related areas. But the main angle is that it's not about a cloud strategy that was most important for us. It was also about how do you enable a cloud with a business strategy together? And this is probably the most important point from our experiences. So our business strategy was about how do we go to market better. Our business strategy was how do we do customer experience better, personalization of those areas. Our business strategy was about how do we optimize the processes around our core business itself, how do we utilize data and AI, and as well as how do we actually do partnerships with hyperscalers and as well as new providers in a very safe and secure manner. So this is most important for us because a combination of the business strategy as well as cloud strategy is what really drives the key enabler for increase on innovation, cost of ownership, as well as agility for the business.
Understand. So if I can summarize, most of the workloads that you've mentioned are a lot more customer-facing.
Yes.
On the digital app side. Is there any specific apps that, is your chatbot specifically hosted on cloud as well?
I think most of our apps are hosted on cloud. The ones that are not hosted, I think one of the panelists mentioned just now, there are some applications which are not suited for the cloud. So we wouldn't move it to the cloud. And there's also a long story about data, how much data you should put in the cloud because of the egress. This is a term that ask me later on it. Yeah. So.
Sure. Well, we can circle back to that. So Mara, what is Astro's overall cloud strategy when it comes to selecting prioritization of workloads to be migrated?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, we started from first from what was easier. I mean, we let some of the development team trying to do proof of concept and trying to play, but this was, in the past, right? Then we started to try to do some big things. So we also moved some of our legacy applications on the cloud. Although these are not optimized to run on cloud, but was just to prove we can go almost full on cloud. And then since then, we started doing what has a better ROI. Okay. So usually you start from some hardware you have to replace, or you have to make some choice about how to replatform something. And then usually we look at cloud first if you can. So usually we do we always try to find what is the best in terms of fast ROI. But now, of course, we are almost at the end of the journey, so we're looking at migrating the most complex one, right? Again, about broadcasting, these are more traditional, but now the technology is mature enough, and we're looking at that as well, yeah. All
right. David, I think you definitely have an interesting lens, right? Because you have clients that you serve. You've seen other people's journey, not specifically in the verticals of telco and also streaming. So for your clients, when they are embarking on this journey, firstly, what were their key motivations for wanting to adopt cloud? And then from your perspective, what's the most common misconception when people talk about this cloud migration?
Yeah, similar to what Mei Ching and Maro has mentioned, when I look at ASEAN and we do work with our customers, the things that really come to mind in terms of our business outcome is around speed and agility, right? Because if you think about what these organizations have gone through and what we've seen with our customers in ASEAN is that they know customers' preferences, appetite changes, and it changes almost overnight, right? Now, the way they we used to develop applications was very monolithic. You go through a life cycle and it takes a long time to actually push out new features, right? And that's really what those outcomes were, speed and agility, right? The ability to really come up with new features very quickly and being able to very fast, continuously deliver new functionalities, right? New features out as and when consumer appetite, demands, and changes from that perspective. So that's the two. I'll put cost in. I mean, that cost is there. I mean, you can save it up to a certain point, but of course, I think as Mei Ching alluded to, there's another flip side to that cost, right? We'll talk about that for sure. Misconception. And this is, I often hear this, when you go to the cloud, I'm secure, right? If that was the case, you probably won't be hearing a lot of breaches that are happening, right, for customers going for cloud. And I think that's one of the big misconception there, because they think that they go to cloud, I let the provider handle it, and and that's it, right? I'm kind of outsourcing my responsibility, but lo and behold, that's not the case, and that's a big misconception, and I think it has definitely consequences and impact to organizations going to cloud, thinking that security is actually handled for them. Yeah.
Sure. I guess just quick follow-up for yourself and also maybe Mei Ching. There is this understanding that you have to sort of modernize your legacy systems when you want to migrate to cloud. And I guess when you talk about modernization, these are all additional costs you have to reintegrate. So how do you ensure then, when you're embarking on this journey, that that total cost of ownership is manageable? That, I mean, you don't want to pay more versus before. That's the ideal state, right? But how do you manage that? And if you can share from your client's perspective as well. Why do they need to modernize these legacy systems? Start with, Mei Ching first.
Sure. I think it's a little bit complicated, but I think there's now a balance about whether cloud really is cheaper long term. I think there's a debate going on there. But just from a total cost of ownership perspective, from a practitioner perspective, it's very logical for us. We prefer to go digital first. So meaning to reinvent the whole entire business process, to redesign the customer experience straight up from clean, rather than to lift and shift in the migration standpoint. That actually is able to drive the best benefit from a cloud transformation perspective and drive the best chance of a TCO. But the rest of the TCO parameters is actually about how you maintain it over a longer period. And that's really a lot about skills, practicing the right approach, and also thinking about why you're using the cloud for.
Okay. All right. Maru? Sorry. David first.
Yeah, okay. I think when you're asking why companies do modernize, and from our experience looking at it, is that they need to modernize because when they do move to cloud, certain legacy applications, yes, they have the term lift and shift, right? The issue with, I feel with lifting and shifting is that you are actually taking potentially all your practices, bad or good, or well, in most cases, bad practices up to the cloud, right? And when you move it up to the cloud, that almost gets multiplied very fast, right? Because in a few clicks of a button, you actually literally set up an entire data center. Now, the thing is, you modernize the applications because you want to take all the best practice security that the provider has built in and they've thought of into it, right? And there's a new way of actually now securing those data centers, those applications. And those applications can take advantage of all the new frameworks, the new capabilities of the cloud provider and all that along with it. So that's why they need to modernize the applications. But along that is a very good opportunity to actually kind of rethink security as well. In the past, security has always been a bolt-on. You only think about it after the fact. You only put it through its paces and try to break the system after the application's been built. Now, applications built very differently. The security is actually built right in front, right within the source code itself, right? The developers developing it, and that's when the security is actually being scanned in there to make sure that you are actually putting in good coding practices into that, right? So, yeah.
All right. We're getting some questions already. I'll take some of it as we go along. But I guess the audience here today mostly are investment community, right? So we talk about all these great things that we want to achieve with cloud. And I understand cloud migration is an evolving journey, sometimes a multi-year. It's a very long process. But how do you then report to your board members in terms of the success rate of your migration? How do you measure this productivity gains? Is it lower cost, higher productivity, or higher revenue that you could upsell, cross-sell in terms of products with analytics? Maybe you can provide some color in terms of how Maxis and also Astro measure this.
Okay, maybe I'll go first. So the board does look at the cloud roadmap, and as it is one of our key transformation journey, a key transformation roadmap, because cloud transformation is actually a key enabler for us, our business, as well as our customers, right? So when the board looks at it, look at it from a point of, do we have the roadmap and the strategy correct? Do we have the ability to manage it over time? Do we have the right operating model? So it's mainly structural, but over time, the benefits of this is actually quite huge. It's actually business benefits and what I call business agility and cost is actually translated through the business itself, right? So I'll give you an example of some of the key, what are the key results that the board looks at and outcomes, right? For example, increasing sales, ability to increase sales as part of the business is quite critical to the board from a reviewing of business performance. So for us, cloud has enabled us to increase a lot of online sales through the enablement of the digitalization technology. And we are able to go through events such as, for telco community, it's like iPhone sales, right? iPhone sales, the ability, the last 2 years, we had record-breaking sales, no downtime, and we were able to handle lots of workloads throughout that, and actually had a lot of throughput, and this was through the technology of the cloud. I mean, that's one example. The cost example was also quite interesting. When you look at operational cost enablement, the result of cloud is quite interesting. Like, for example, we had enabled AI use case from drones and looking at tower maintenance, right? Drones and the images are actually processed through the cloud-based technology of AI. And that has actually helped us reduce the resources that goes onto the tower, as well as also improve the experience of, improve the maintenance cycle itself, right? So the turnaround is actually overall cost improvement itself. So, and there are many of these cases through our business results and how we see it. So it's very hard to say that there is one use case and one business case and the whole cloud transformation is reviewed, but the board looks at it from an executional perspective, operating model, as well as assurance at how we look at business benefits.
Understand. Because everything is super intertwined.
That's
it's
right.
happening at the same time as well.
That's right.
What about Maru for Astro?
Yeah, it's difficult to measure, right? So we actually, of course, before moving something on cloud, we do our business case, and this usually makes sense. It's easy to calculate the benefits, right? Because about CapEx versus OpEx, I mean, you might have a specific use case you want to automate, and this is easy. But then once you start doing it, I mean, you can't measure that anymore, right? Because many things change.
Yeah.
And you got used to the new speed you have. You can't compare this to anything else in the past. But surely, I mean, you can, as for Max, you can scale up easily. That's a benefit that you cannot have otherwise. So we have a big MFL match, we have Premier League match, a lot of people coming, and then we can just scale up. This, you cannot do the same with the on-prem unless you buy a lot of hardware you never use. Or disaster recovery. Disaster recovery has always been very expensive, right? But now it's not anymore because we just have there in another region, for example, wherever you have your system ready to start. This is not a cost, right? It's not a cost until you use it. And normally, we used to buy a lot of hardware that you hope you'll never use, and then it gets sold, you never use. So this is something is not comparable with the on-prem anymore, right? Yeah. And then, yeah, of course, we've been, as we put more stuff on the cloud, of course, my CEO and CFO, they challenge me every year for the budget because this cost is increasing. I say, oh, that costs too much. Yeah, it is, but we never consider how much we put more on that. So that's, this also drives another thing. Every year, we have to reconsider if it's actually a good option or not. So every year, we have to spend some time to reconsider if cloud versus on-prem, right? It's something that you see, everyone is talking about that again, because there are some use cases, some companies are doing that, but we measure that it's still, our best option is still cloud, yeah.
Okay. Can I kind of chip in on that?
Sure.
I mean, from that perspective, you know, within Palo Alto Networks, how we kind of look at some of the metrics that we do measure and look at. And it's actually a public case. We do actually go out and tell our customers how we run our SOC and the efficiencies that we actually get out of it. Like I mentioned, right, we are today the largest cybersecurity company in the world, just went into S&P 500, right? Because of that, we are very interested by a lot of people, right? Even the bad guys themselves. So a lot of that telemetry generated means that we need to put a lot of people into the SOC, into our operations, right? And when it comes to cost and efficiency and all that, some of the questions they ask is that, are we constantly throwing people at the problem, right? Or are we actually using automation and all that to really drive down that efficacy of how we protect our network, and are we really making good use of the people? So people save in terms of the man hours, and as well as, more interestingly, some of the SLOs or SLAs that we actually tell our customers, right? We do mean time to detect within 10 seconds, mean time to response within a minute, right, of detecting a breach. We're actually able to know about it already. So those are like some of the metrics that we kind of look at as well, so that drives a lot of interest in terms of how we run it, yeah.
All right. I think we spoke a bit about the cloud strategy, and then after that, some of the metrics that you measure in terms of after this migration. But maybe walk us through in terms of the challenges. I'm sure it was a painful journey. So during the migration process, what were the key things that really were one of your considerations? We can start with Mei Ching first.
Okay, probably have a whole afternoon on this. Okay. Firstly, I think a few key points for cloud migration in the process of thinking about it. The first one is how. I think there was a question that was asked to me earlier, as in, should we build on the cloud or should we do migration? So this is how. And then the second one is who. Now with a lot of availability of choices, is who do we want to partner with kind of approach, right? And should you go into a hybrid cloud approach? Do you invest all in one cloud or not? That sort of that would be the second consideration. And the third consideration is really about data and security, right? I think question asked just now, should we put all this data, if it's confidential in the cloud, how safe and secure it is and all. So there's a lot of questions in consideration when you're planning. Yeah. Okay, now when it comes to executing, probably share three key areas to think about, right? The first one is really about to drive innovation. It's really about the considerations of, as I mentioned just now, should you, do you need to transform and not just lift and shift? I mentioned just now, as in, do you just take the workloads and put it in the cloud and expect to get operational cost improvement? The answer is most likely not by now, right? It's really about transforming the customer experience, the business result, as well as, even in the areas of workloads such as software as a service SaaS, right? You can't just use a SaaS platform and expect your whole entire business to be improved in terms of efficiency unless you transform the process itself. So that's the one key area when it comes to harvesting new capabilities and innovation. The second one, I think, is really about the operational improvement, the cost itself, right? I think Mauro mentioned just now about the capex to opex. So CFO question is always not necessarily opex is good. We used to think that that's the case, but for us, it's also now the challenge of managing opex when previously it was all capex. Number one. Number two is really about a new function in most organizations. It's called FinOps. In actually managing, how do you manage financials with the cloud? Because the cloud provider is like a utility, and that utility can be quite expensive over time. Yeah. So there's a lot of balance about, should you put this workload? Is there too much data? When, as I mentioned just now, when you extract data from the cloud, it costs a lot of money, so you have to be careful about where you put it and things like that. And I think the last one, of course, is really about operational management and security, a last consideration. The security perimeter, I was talking to David offline just now, has now increased from not only the on-prem workloads, but now also to the cloud. So there is a new set of understanding of which part is a shared responsibility, as most of the cloud providers say, how much should we depend on the cloud providers' managed service? How much of it is organizational safety and security? And how do you protect the data privacy in between that? So those are the challenges that continue to keep us awake as practitioners and as the practitioners in this industry.
Over to you, Mauro.
Yeah, I agree on most of she said already, but I just would add, yeah, we also, the point about moving as is system versus refactoring, right? So I mean, if you move a crap system on the cloud, it's still a crap system, right? It's just going to cost you more. So said that. I mean, I think for us, the most one of the most critical things is about multi-cloud. So we are not, as Max is about leveraging multi-cloud, but we are multi-cloud. And this is one of the first choices you have to make. I mean, in reality, sometimes this choice has been done by developers without even knowing, right? They start doing a proof of concept, they leverage some functionalities of the specific cloud provider, and then you're stuck. So yeah, multi-cloud is important, but it has to be planned properly, right? Because for everything that is more kind of general computing or storage, then you can move easily from one to another. But when you start doing data application or something more specific and you leverage specific functionalities of the one cloud provider versus the other, then you are stuck there. So this has to be planned probably at the beginning, right? And yeah, the other thing is security, of course. I mean, we have to move from our SOC and SIEM that were mostly antivirus, anti-malware, that were focused mostly on prem. And now we have to move on software and solutions that are mostly, they are born in cloud and they work for cloud. They also work for on-prem, but they are mostly focusing on cloud. So this is another important thing you have to do, right? You're trying to avoid to have double the system. So at a certain point, you have to choose where to go. And that's because the size of the data you have to, or the size of the threat, increase a lot in the cloud. So you need to be prepared, you need to plan that, you have to spend for the cybersecurity part. Yeah.
Understand. Thanks for sharing that. I think moving on to David, having worked with clients that some of them were born in cloud, but I guess majority of the corporates, they have a hybrid system and they're mentioning multi-cloud plus hybrid. From cybersecurity perspective, I guess cloud also means there's a lot of exposure because you're in the public domain, right? And it's assessed via APIs. So we go back to the fundamental question from cybersecurity. Do you really think that it's safer to be in cloud? And if you can share some examples of your clients who took this for granted and the implications.
Okay, so whether is it safer or not, I think it really depends on how aware are they in terms of going into that journey, right? Mauro and Mei-Ching talked about multi-cloud. So if you look at like Bank Negara kind of mandates the FSI to say you should not have single concentration risk. Don't go into a single CSP. You need to think about it from a hybrid perspective, so you don't put all your eggs in one basket. The flip side of that is that now you have an operational challenge. One cloud provider provides a security very different from another cloud provider. So how do you kind of normalize that, have a single pane of glass, kind of make it simpler for organizations to consume security? Because in the past, cyber has been so complicated that, and worse still is they don't talk to each other, right, the system. So, and that's really what we've seen change, right, that it's a collaborative system, and even within Palo, we're going into a platform approach. Security works best when it's in its simplest form, right? You don't have too many moving parts moving around, and that's how you get the efficiencies out of that. I think with regards to some of the operational challenges around that is making sure that you know where the data is going to, how you're actually securing it, using a single pane of glass again, right, across the multi-cloud platform, across the multi-clouds, and being able to kind of view visibility on that. The other big part I would say is that you know, and I think a lot of the audience here is that moving from legacy or hybrid into cloud, right? When they move to cloud, the challenge I see is that when it moves to cloud, it's a whole new area. Security is kind of not thought of. That leaves a big visibility gap. From that perspective. And a lot of times the traditional security operation centers and all that, they don't even know what their cloud counterparts are actually doing when they go to cloud. We've certainly seen that kind of experience working with some clients across. So being able to think about what the new security requirements are going to cloud and be able to operationalize them and then move them, look at it holistically, both on-premise as well as cloud, will be important because your assets are going up to cloud, right? Yeah.
All right. Maybe we can move on to post-migration. I mean, we touched a little bit on this, but we didn't really deep dive. So when it comes to IT upskilling, you were mentioning the skill set is completely different after migrating to cloud. So how do you tackle this internally for Maxis and Astro in terms of taking into consideration talent scarcity when it comes to this particular field as well?
Okay, so for us, because we have established this practice in cloud for quite a while, we have currently now in Maxis 6 centers of excellence where we use for technology growth, for skills to support cloud, both cloud and digitalization. So that's basically digital, data and AI, 5G and IoT, RPA, cloud itself, and as well as digital operations engineering. And then we see some of the areas of cloud-based also across on-prem that is practice, what we call communities of practice. So that's where we have established cybersecurity and agile practices across board. And we also have a onboarding program to our Maxis citizens, we call digital citizens, where they onboard cloud skills so that we are enabling them to move forward with operating on the cloud. I think the second key point is also something I'm very passionate about, is also skills at the grassroots level, right? So this is very important. A lot of our workforce is traditional, but I'm quite excited that the young talents that we have into university grads, fresh graduates and all, we have a technology graduate program. We also have technology scholarships where we are embarking upon bringing on board new workforce young talents, like we call it. And we're quite excited about this because a lot of them, this personal experience, nearly every graduate that comes out now have interest in data science and digital. So it's quite exciting, and I'm quite positive that this will enable us to have that grassroots skills. But we do need to support them because that's where the I think was mentioned earlier about public-private partnerships. So as organizations, we need to support the ability to onboard these graduates into programs, or rather reskilling programs for our existing workforce so that they are cloud ready. And as well as also some of the other things like incubators, government incubators, and as well as learning programs, upskilling programs, hackathons, all sorts of areas like this. Just give you an example about how interesting it is that a month ago when one of my young talent came up to me and I asked him, do you have ability to access AWS intern? Is an intern, right? And the guy said, no, because I don't have a credit card. As simple as that, right? And it's as simple as that. We just, practically speaking, our graduates do not have credit cards, so they can't access the cloud services, and therefore most universities do not have a huge investment in these public cloud technologies. So that's something that we can do differently that will help us, bring forth the grassroots level skills as well as onboarding, upskilling our own existing workforce.
Maru?
Yeah, I let them groom the talents and then I steal them. No, just kidding. Yeah, we do have, when we start this journey, right, people were very excited. So we actually open up to all our people, right, our guys. They can learn and can become expert of AWS. Doesn't matter, mostly AWS, yeah. Doesn't matter if they are tech guys or not. If they're interested, we let them do. And then in some cases, we also let them do certification, this kind of stuff. It's a risky journey because once they have this piece of paper, they can go somewhere else, right? But it's still worth doing it. And it's so expensive and difficult to get people from outside on cloud because it's a very expensive skill. So we tend to either groom our own, or we also have a young talent program. So we try to get, because everyone is excited to do that, they want to learn. So it's easy to get new people, fresh graduates to learn how to use the cloud, yeah.
All right. We're getting some questions. I'll just try to combine them together. So it's for David. I guess we touched a bit on the personal data protection when it comes to migrating some of this information to cloud. Are the regulations keeping industries like the banks from migrating to cloud?
Actually, no. If you look at it, Bank Negara has been very open to get the regulated industries like FSI and all that to actually move to cloud. It's just they need to be going in with both eyes wide open, do your risk assessment, what is it that you're putting into the cloud, and tell Bank Negara about it and go, right? So they're not actually trying to slow them down in any way, form, or shape. They just need to know what you're putting up there, have you assessed the risk, and then go and use it. Because if you look at the recent digital banking licenses, they are all born in the cloud. They've got no legacy infrastructure. They go straight away, they are on the cloud already, right? So in that sense.
So just following up on that question with Astro and also Maxis, does that mean that you guys store some of the customers' personal identifiable information on cloud at this point?
Yes, in different forms. It's mostly encrypted. Plus, also PDPA allows certain cloud locations to be used, and we are using the Singapore cloud locations. And very happy that all three hyperscalers are coming to Malaysia, maybe next year, hopefully. That will actually also open up a little bit more the regulation of where the data residency is. But most of the data is encrypted, and we don't really store it openly, and also we have to be very careful what sort of data we store also.
What about us?
Yeah, same. I mean, everything, all the data, all the customer data are encrypted. I mean, not even our agents can see most of the data. I mean, all the critical data are not visible even to our own agents. So yeah, everything is encrypted.
So when you say encrypted, basically there has to be some sort of data anonymization that has to be done first, that has to be massaged, and then you migrate this onto the cloud. Okay. Understand. All right. I guess we're about 10 minutes to the end. Just towards the end of this conversation, I just want to touch a bit on in 5 to 10 years' time, right? What's the end goal you envision Maxis or Astro in terms of your cloud transformation journey? How will Maxis look like 10 years from now, or Astro, how will you look like 10 years from now? Before that, currently, where are you in terms of cloud adoption between 1 to 10?
Okay, so maybe I'll do the rating last, right? But I think as our ambition as Maxis is to be a technology company inside and outside as well, to support organizations to this cloud journey, to the technology journey. We're also very excited by the whole spectrum. I think today we heard about 5G. Then we have cloud, and we also spoke about one of the previous panels spoke about applications of cloud like AI. So we're very excited that we have these key enablers on the table, and we envision that this will be very key for us towards our ambition to achieve better business agility on cloud, as well as what I call human agility, digitalization of the human experience as well, to make us more productive and also more capable in the cloud itself. So we are probably about 70% of our applications on the cloud journey towards the end of the year. So I would really probably conservatively rate myself maybe about 7 out of 10. In terms of the journey.
That's quite advanced.
But the end goal, what we see is the end goal is really about a very advanced technology company, a partner, hopefully a partner to all of the corporate Malaysia and also external providers, who is actually cloud-ready, cloud-enabled, as well as your partner to enable the technologies of the cloud to support your business. So business agility is our end goal. The customer experience, unmatched customer experience for our own customers is an end goal. And the last one is really about the what I call the agile human mindset, which is about how developers think. They think very agile. They're born in the cloud. They think very fast, and that's what we want to operate as a country as well.
Over to you, Mauro.
Yeah, I think we are somewhere between 7 and 8, because we moved a lot of stuff right on cloud or software as a service, right? Not everything is on cloud. We also have a lot of packages, and I think once what we have in plan in the next 12, 18 months, we might be between 8 and 9, but that probably be end game. That's where we wanna be. I mean, they're gonna be something still on either on-prem or on cloud, but we can't replace, we can't. So we're going to have some small legacy in the cloud. So it's not going to be more than 9 for sure, between 8 and 9.
All right. David, so to wrap things up, I guess, any key message for our audience who are the CIOs or CTOs of other corporates looking to embark on this journey when it comes to cloud migration? Do you have any message for them?
Yeah, I guess just thinking about that question, I guess for corporate Malaysia, looking at it is from a cybersecurity perspective, is how do we actually be, instead of changing the word from cybersecurity, use cyber resilience, right? How have we thought about in terms of how resilient are we if, it's not a matter of if, right? When a breach actually does happen and when we all rush to the cloud or start adopting cloud, when a breach actually happens, how are we actually able to respond to that and be able to recover out of that particular event itself, right? So tabletop exercises are important. Understanding the threat landscape is going to be important, especially cloud, right? Even our own threat reports, we publish that on an annual basis. We see some of the common mistakes that a lot of organizations have practiced and which causes the breach itself. So being cyber resilient, asking the question in terms of how can we actually recover from that. That's one. I think the other part also is as we move to cloud, with 5G and all that, you're going to be overloaded with a large amount of data, which is definitely what we saw, right, in our own journey going to the cloud, 55 terabytes of data per day. That amount of data itself, just to process, is going to be humanly impossible, right? So the big question is, how is automation going to be used in that case to really drive down cost, drive efficiencies, and I guess from a cyber practitioner perspective, the security efficacy itself. Because for us, it's important, right? We don't use like generative AI. I mean, there's use cases for that from a support customer experience perspective, but we use a different type of AI in terms of how we actually protect the systems, right? We need to be very sure in terms of when we recommend you that this is a problem, it is really a problem, and when the AI is not hallucinating the recommendation, right? So automation is going to be important when you consider the amount of data and telemetry that you will suddenly be open and exposed to, right? So yeah, those couple of things that came out.
Maru, any message for your fellow colleagues out there who's looking at this cloud transformation?
Yeah, cybersecurity, you talk a lot. So this is one of the things you have to plan and think about. The other things is cost. We touched that as well. Forecasting is not easy. And whenever you forecast, you put in a budget, the CFO tells you that it's too much, you have to cut. And then you spend most of the year to find a way to cut the cost. So there, where FinOps comes in place, right? You need new skills. You need people that can do the forecasting, but they also can look at how you use the cloud and how you can optimize, what you are not using properly. So there's a lot of waste. First, when you start using cloud, you have to have skills that they just look at that. They just look at your cost. That's very important.
So someone with the intersection of understanding the cloud functionalities and also the forecasting bit.
Yeah, and also, understanding on a day-by-day how you use cloud, if there's something that is done not properly, and there's a very great connection also with the DevOps team to be sure that they change the application, the setup, in the way that it will be less expensive. Yeah.
Understand. Mei-Ching, last message?
I think I've said it also, so just to recap, cloud is actually really the enabler, but it's very important for us to match the business needs and all to it. So I think most of the people, or rather the business community who are listening in, or rather the investment community, has in some way deal with it before. But we must also remember that there's a lot of the community, like for example the SMEs of the country and all, who may not have that ability yet. And this cloud will be a leapfrog in terms of the capability that it can enable on the business side. This is very strong and powerful. So the two messages, just recap, is about how do we harness business agility and how do we harness human performance digital ability, right?
Understand. So basically let the business drive the technology, not technology driving the business.
Yes, that's right.
All right.
Thank you.
I guess that's it from the third panel. I'll hand it over back to you. Thank you.